going
What?
live. Hey, okay, so we're
Good,
live now,
good morning.
and hopefully we can get some people on here that want to ask some questions. But if not, they can watch this later. I want to welcome Anki. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Anki, and Anki was here with Allison a couple weeks ago talking about the Illuminati, and which I'm sure probably plays into. Does it play into this at all? Somewhat. I mean, the
Well,
Freemasons do, but
yeah. I mean, that's it's all part of the same scheme. You know,
yes,
the idea was to infiltrate um, every culture and secret society and be the number one with your tentacles everywhere. So, I mean, it does relate.
yeah. So, so, so you did talk about the Illuminati, which the Illuminati is like something I do find interesting. This, though, I do find way more interesting the ramifications of everything we've been taught, if it's true, you know,
Yeah.
um, and the amount of oh, sorry, they're fighting. The amount of just the amount of cover up and bullshit we've been force fed if it is true, but also the fact that if it is true, the fact that it's true doesn't change my life at all, right?
No, yeah, it
So,
doesn't.
I like that. I like that aspect because if it's true, wouldn't that be rad? I would just think that'd be rad. So anyways, why don't you tell us how you got into things, flat Earth?
Okay. So a number of years ago, probably 4 to 5 years ago, I really just stumbled upon some flat Earth videos, and at first it's just a silly idea, but those are fun, so that's why we look into those kind of things and watch those kind of videos. Um, and people had all kinds of outrageous ideas, seemingly outrageous ideas. But as I went along and asked more questions, or even listened to somebody explaining where people aren't asking questions, and then going down that rabbit hole, trying to find more videos from different people to see what is everybody saying, how different is it, just to get a good pulse on the whole concept that's whirling around the internet, because there was a huge spike um, in the viewing of flat earth content, and it's mostly attributed to Eric Dubay. He had put out um, very detailed and well planned out videos, because he was inspired by a previous person that he had read about, Dr. Samuel Robotham. And so he was intrigued by the experiments that he was doing to try to figure out the reality of his existence. And so I really appreciate Eric Dubay's videos. They're very thought provoking. Um, Although I can see where some people might not like, maybe he's not their preference for how they like their information delivered. Some people, you could fall asleep probably to an Eric Dubay video, but he's got great information and he's asking great questions. So after stumbling upon him, yeah, I really just tried to find anybody else that was talking about it, and it led me into multiple different uh, kind of cliques, maybe, on the internet, where people were arguing and debating, and they'd have opposing sides come and deliver their spiel on why they believe their point is right. And so I started listening to hours upon hours upon hours of just random people asking all these questions that I probably would have never thought of. And that really opened it up for me to maybe try to find answers to at least some of these, and think of how things that I know and understand and have learned in life uh, apply to either side, the flat or round. So it was a long journey, and it's not fun, really. It's fun to be inspired and thirsty for knowledge, but to feel like you can't talk to a lot of people that about such an abstract idea, and just get ridiculed if you were to bring something like that up. That kind of isn't the most fun. And so people, and I know, me personally, I went through a period of cognitive dissonance where I was trying to understand my world in multiple ways, with conflicting information. And it's really hard to to express yourself through this discouraged feeling, these feelings of being lied to. Maybe you get to the point where you feel like um, everybody just has no care, and this is just a stupid topic, and why am I even like thinking about this? But once you get that particular idea that something that relates to an idea that very well, maybe through your work or through a childhood experience, or something like that, where you know that something works a certain way, and that doesn't work with what modern science is telling everybody. So that's kind of an idea of how I found and made my way forward over a period of years.
So I will say I get you there. Like what I had mentioned to you before previously is that I'm not entirely sure I believe it, but I don't disbelieve it. But the part you said about talking to people, um, so I realized when because I am genuinely someone that likes to learn about things, and if I hear something that resonates with me as true or untrue, I try to figure out which one. Like I try to, if I'm not sure, I try to figure out which one because I want to know. Um, and uh, and so I would talk to people that I know, and for some reason, this topic, among all the other controversial, like very polarizing topics, I thought this topic would be the least polarizing, but it seems to be one of the most polarizing topics. People
Well, it
can't just
is.
have a discussion. They have to call you stupid. They have
Yes.
to tell you, like, look at the science, look at the science. And I'm like, but that's the thing. I have looked at science that tells me otherwise, so,
Yep.
and they'll just, I mean, they get angry, like real angry. It's
Well,
almost like politics.
you're questioning their understanding of their entire existence, and the only way that they could take it is that they obviously don't know, and would then be stupid, and nobody wants to feel that way. So it does anger you to think that this person's questioning my intelligence, and obviously this is what all of the people say, and why would you even question that? It's dumb. We have satellites, and that it's rough.
I like to say, but how do you know? Like when somebody tells you that science
Mhm.
says this, but how do you know personally that that is true? Because if you didn't come up with the scientific experiment, actually do the first experiment to do something, how do you know? Like, how
Yep.
do we know those satellites or those things blinking in the sky are real? How do we know? I mean, we could go into the moon landing. We
I
really could go into the moon landing.
I think that people don't realize that there's like a huge satellite balloon launch program. You know, that oh, was it maybe Google was trying to put up a satellite system called Loon to, give coverage to people in places that don't get it. But that's specifically what it is. It's a balloon program with satellites dangling. And that's how they originally started. That's the first satellite that I recall hearing about was called Echo 1, and it was a massive balloon. And they, from what I could find online, it hovered up there for years, like 900 miles above the Earth. And the first satellite phone call was made with the use of that satellite, allegedly. And so it's historically accurate that satellites and balloons go hand in hand. But try to tell somebody that, yeah, no, that's probably a balloon up there. They just think you're nuts.
Yeah. Oh, well, they think, yeah, like we're to get a bad rap. But I also think there's another reason why flat earthers get a bad rap is because people from the other side, let's say people that really are invested in keeping the globe Earth theory prevalent and the real theory, the real truth, they infiltrate societies and groups like the flat earthers with people to make you look crazy. Like the people, there are members of the Flat Earth Society that I have literally seen make blogs about the edge of the earth.
Yeah.
But I don't think they are members. I think they're people that have infiltrated from the other side. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think anybody that believes in the flat earth theory believes that there is an edge. There's an edge we could just fall off of if we just keep walking.
No, it's more like an infinite plane kind of theory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is still mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still insane to think of.
I love that theory, though.
A ginormous, never-ending plane.
That I love. I love it. So you believe in, so I suppose maybe I should let you explain. I mean, I think most people understand that there was a point in time where the earth was believed to be flat. And up until about 500 years ago, it was not commonly accepted, widely accepted as being the truth until what happened?
Well, a lot of theories and ideas coming out, oddly enough, mostly from the church. You get people like Isaac Newton having all his theories. The what was it called? Principia Mathematica. He was trying to convey the idea of the sun being the center of our solar system. And so he was really kind of timid in the beginning. He didn't want to go against what everybody said, but one of the religious figures that he was close to really pushed him to put out the information. But he was just a person thinking of abstract ideas. I believe personally. I think he was just trying to think outside of the box in a scholarly manner. But throughout some letters that he had written to a gentleman, Sir Richard Bentley, in one of these letters, which I had read, I think you can find it on like a Harvard website. They were very popular letters. He wrote many letters, and I'd really suggest taking a moment to read if you can, because it's nice to see the mind thought of somebody hundreds of years ago, and how he was, exercising a lot of intellect. He really was, and that he was essentially doing the same thing we're doing now, but with the reverse idea, right? So he was the goofy round earther back in the day, which is the equivalent of our flat earther today. But what he had said that stuck out to me the most, and I hope you don't mind if I read this. He says, "It is inconceivable that innate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else, which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be. If gravitation, in the sense of Epicurus, be essential and inherent in it, and this one reason why I desire you would not ascribe innate gravity to me, that gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall for it. Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws. But whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left open for the consideration of my readers." So he says, I don't want you guys to put this on me. I don't want my name on it. Right? You want to run with this idea? It was fun for me. I don't want it. I think it's absurd to think.
It is, and so the ramifications of that statement are,
So I mean,
what do you, yeah.
it just shows you he didn't have any real belief in it. This was just an abstract idea.
And so then, but the ramifications of that are that he went with his theory anyway.
They
His
went
idea.
with his theory.
They went with his
did.
theory. So
Yeah.
you think he never pursued it past that?
Well, he came up with these abstract ideas. He didn't push it forward. It was pushed forward by other people. He didn't want to.
Then was he still involved? So he didn't want to be associated. So he was no longer involved with it after that point.
Well, I really can't say, but reading through, it seems like he was trying to have intelligent conversations about abstract ideas, and other people were trying to utilize him as a tool to progress an idea forward.
Okay.
I mean, he may have
their
had
agenda,
involvement.
correct?
What's that?
And the reason being is that this all goes back to money, right? I mean, because it would.
No, it goes back to controlling the thoughts of everybody
Okay.
and destroying the whole idea of God, realistically. Because if you can take away what people had understood about the earth through ancient texts and such, if you bring up these new ideas, you can wipe out that entire thought process and implement something new. And so you're controlling people. For what reason? Who knows? Some people probably do it for fun. Some people were born into a particular lineage, maybe, and so you never really know, how somebody gets there.
Correct, you don't. So, so when this whole thing came about, like the with that and stuff, and And I'm sorry, I'm not like versed on any of that at all. That's like I've never heard that what you read before at all. Like that's pretty mind blowing, right?
Yeah. Well, who
Like is
goes and reads, ancient letters from people hundreds of years ago?
so when people started really pushing these theories, these ideas that you said he was just wanting to open up dialogue, right? Just talk about these
I mean,
ideas.
that's what it seemed like. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then other people kind of pushed their own narrative for the control and thoughts of other and to discredit the church, right? That's you say was like the number one thing was to discredit the church.
Well, to remove people from finding their way to the church, because
Okay.
at the time, the earth was held fast on 4 pillars, correct? So
Right.
everybody who's going to church, if you can have them all change their mind and stop donating to that guy, and come over here where we don't have a need for, this is all just a happy accident, and we're floating in the endlessness, coincidentally. It removes that. I think that's what it does in the end, is it just removes you from having a natural path to follow your ancestors and what has been passed down, and then they can control you more from there, because, well, you believe this because the expert said so, and what else can I get an expert to say and get you to believe, and put me in a position of power, or get you to buy my trinkets and or what have you.
Yeah, and so let's push forward like well, when was Newton? Was that like so was this the push for the round earth theory that was 500 years ago? Because I know that there was one that was years, that was like about 1500 years ago. There was someone that was laughed out of his field of work. I can't remember which. They were all philosophers, though, right? They were all philosophers that were doing all
Yeah.
this theorizing, and it wasn't Copernicus, right, that started
Let's see.
this first
No.
started the way long ago, but then it was just poo-pooed, and everybody was like, no,
Yeah.
you know,
Copernicus. Who else? Yeah, Copernicus came out with his model. But I think it had Earth in the center and everything else going around, but it was kind of a globular model. If I don't particularly recall that portion. But the idea was pushed forward by those in charge. I think that's the best way to put it. It's not a particular group. There's just those in charge. And so through the ages, you slowly chip away, and you get into the school systems, and then you can teach everybody from a very young age, where you have a malleable mind, and you can set it in stone that you learned ever since you were a child, that this is the way things are. And the idea perpetuates itself easily just through the organization of our school systems, and how somebody else is always teaching our kid what the experts say.
right.
So can I get into some more, a gentleman who probably made the most amazing video evidence that
Get into
really,
anything you want.
okay,
It's your show.
the guy's channel is J Tolan Media 1, and so what he started to do when he became intrigued with the idea of the flat earth is he took a camera up on a plane and tried to zoom and see as far as he could see and see, what kind of curvature he could find. And he eventually started using infrared lenses so that he could get a more crisp picture and pierce through the haze, because it's a different wavelength, so it kind of permeates through the atmosphere better, and you can get a very crisp, clear infrared image from the plane, at a very a reasonable altitude of somewhere between 25 and 35,000 feet. So he slowly kind of progressed in his understanding based on what he saw in these videos, and I highly recommend that you go check him out. And one video in particular, he's flying over Missouri, maybe on the south end, like Springfield, well, in that southern area, and he's looking north, and you can see the Mark Twain Lake. You can see the Mississippi River. You can see Lake Michigan. You can see the tip of Wisconsin. You could see what seemed to be the Hudson Bay way off in the back. So we're talking like you're looking from the middle of the United States into Canada. It's insane.
Yeah.
So I recommend anybody go look at the video.
Yeah. It's still up on YouTube, you say?
I believe
Is it up
so.
on YouTube?
I can check real quick.
I always ask because, I don't know if you ever been aware of the conspiracy in and of itself of Eric Dubai's channels getting taken down over Dubai and over and over. Like every time I've tried to watch that video that I really love of his, because it's like 2.5 hours long and I've watched it like 6 times, but it's really just, I see something new in it every time. I have to find it again because it's no longer, that subscription that I have to him is no longer good. So it keeps getting taken down. So far, this newest channel he has stayed up with new content on it for a little while. So hopefully it does.
It looks like all the gentlemen's videos are up.
Okay.
And I stumbled upon a group of people that were making these kind of videos. Most of them were doing it from ground level, trying to look at islands that are 50, 60 miles away that they shouldn't see based on curvature. And he took it a step further and went 30,000 feet and pierced through the haze and gives you the most amazing videos.
I gotta find that. Will you give me his name? In I don't have a pen on me right now, but I guess I put it in notes on my phone, or you can just link it to me.
Okay, I'll get it to you.
Yeah. And so okay, so then we talk about that, and then we talk about, I don't know if you know the exact numbers. I don't know that I've watched that video so many times, and I still don't remember the exact numbers, but the fact that the Earth curves at a rate of, do you know the exact numbers?
It's roughly 8 inches per mile squared.
Yeah. So every 8 inches, every 8 is from sea level, right?
At sea level.
What does that mean?
If you go up in elevation, you're getting farther away from the center of the circle, and so you would have a different rate of curvature.
Would it be larger or smaller?
Well, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I've never heard that it was at sea level. But I guess that doesn't make sense because or it doesn't really make a huge difference because you can be 50 feet above sea level. It's not going to be that and you're still seemingly on flat earth. You know what I mean? You're still
Yeah,
like you're not
yeah.
way,
The
way up there. But
the
yeah,
horizon
so
will rise with you.
yeah, so and I think that that's something that a lot of people don't because that's the thing that I didn't even take in when I first started doing a little bit of research and seeing some videos. That's the thing that I didn't even take into consideration at all. I didn't even think about the curvature of the earth. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about, okay, well, and then people will say, well, look at this. Look at this picture from space. Why is it this? Why is it that? And I said, but think about this. Think about going up in an airplane in the middle of the day. Let's think
Yeah.
about going up. Let's think about you're taking off in an airplane at 6 a.m. when the sun's coming up, and you're looking out your window, and you get 30,000 feet in the air. Is that how high they go? 30,000
Oh,
feet.
yeah. That's a
you
that's a
you look out and the earth does not curve on either side anywhere. There is no curve. If
yeah.
you were going straight and if you flew straight up in a helicopter, let's say you flew straight up without projecting forward at all, you should eventually the horizon should disappear from your eye at 30,000 feet, wouldn't you
Yeah.
think?
Well, the horizon should sink below. It should go
Yes,
down. You should
but it
have to
never
look
does.
further down. No, yeah,
It
it stays
never
level with
does.
your eye.
Yes, like you can always see the horizon no matter where you are in the air. And so I was like, when I first saw that, I was like, I don't like flying much, but I'm like, next time I fly, I'm sitting at the window and I'm checking this shit out. And
Yeah,
sure enough,
yeah.
it was flat as far as the eye could see. And
So
then, go ahead.
so when you get so big, it becomes more abstract to an average person, right? And so it does get overwhelming. And so I like to stick to ideas that everybody can comprehend, like pouring a glass of water and tilting it, and you see that like the water will stay level. It will always seek its level. That's why we use water and a bubble in a level to measure if something is tilted. Um,
Right.
but take that cup of water and make it big enough that you could actually measure some difference. Like we have a lake not too far from here, and it's maybe 2 miles in length. Well, if there's a rate of curvature at roughly 8 inches per mile squared, well, that would be 16 inches of curvature. So it would be half that, 8 inches taller in the middle. And so if I go to the lake, it sure doesn't look to me as though it's 8 inches taller in the middle. I can see clear to the other side. I can skip rocks. I have no reason to think that there's some bulge in the middle of the lake.
Right. Right. And I'm sure that they will have a reason for that. But that was the one, like I said, that was the one that hit me the most was that thinking of going up into something like a Space Needle, right?
Yeah.
And with a zoom lens and still never being able to see it drop and just looking straight out, and just never being able to drop from your vision. And it should be able to, at some point, it should disappear below your line of sight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever. Like it's like all the things that they've done, it doesn't do that.
Well, they
And
try to make it look like it does. They made those the 1970s the blue marble a supposed photograph of the globe from halfway to the moon.
oh yeah,
Yeah, right. So
yeah,
plenty of documentaries have been made on the ridiculousness of our space program.
Oh my goodness.
And,
Which is
and
based on the whole space program is based on the globe theory, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's why NASA exists, is we need to explore space, right?
yeah,
If there's no space, there's no NASA.
yeah. So
Freemasons wouldn't like that.
no, I mean, and it's just a cash cow, right? And then you get to have everybody think you're awesome. You know, how cool is it? Oh, look at this launch. Now Elon Musk is the man, when really he's just the next contractor that was hired to perform, this probably more of a military maneuver. This is a psychological operation that we went through to have everybody believe that we won the space race. We fulfilled the dreams of our deceased president in the time frame that he allotted. But the funny thing is, and I don't know if anybody here was born before 1974, but
I was.
Okay, well, so you can have this idea that in your lifetime somebody has went to space, right? I was born in the 80s. Nobody in my lifetime even claims to go to space. The ISS says, well, unfortunately, as high as we can go is low Earth orbit. Well, that's not space.
Well, what about the space station? What about the shuttles? They don't go
No.
into space?
No.
Supposedly, they don't. Where do they go?
So the shuttles, they go into a nice place that was kind of made off limits called the Bermuda Triangle. Right. Well,
Okay.
not all of them, but our famous ones launching from Cape Canaveral go out and get ditched in the ocean.
Okay.
And
that's why. Is that why planes and boats avoid the Bermuda Triangle? Is
oh
not
yeah,
because they're going to get sucked in, but because they might see something they're not supposed to?
well, I mean, all of the stories that I heard growing up, your plane will start to glow, and then you'll go into the future or the past, and then never be heard from or seen again, and the plane never found, or all kinds of anomalies or aliens sucking people away there. Just all kinds of ideas surrounding it, but I don't know if it's always been that way, or if once Wernher von Braun got started at Cape Canaveral, did they designate that an area that needs to be seen as a no-fly zone because of natural problems?
Right. This just popped up, and I thought, like, this was also another thing that, like, I thought, oh wow, if we are moving, if we're a spinning ball, how come planes can't, like, is it, do we spin east to west or west to east?
We're going west to east, is what they say, because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So we're spinning towards the
West
east.
to east. So how is it that we fly with the earth spinning?
How would you go north or south and land on a spinning object?
Yes. Right. Or
Well,
how do you go west? Why do all planes fly west to east, or why do all platform go, around the globe? But if you go, what was the one? Like, if it's spinning the same direction. Like, if I'm flying from Washington to New York, right? Washington State to
yeah,
New York State. The globe is supposedly going the same way as I am, right?
yes. But
Wouldn't
you're stuck in the Velcro atmosphere that's stuck spinning with the Earth.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes.
That's
Sometimes
their
that's what they
theory.
think. Sometimes, if they can get away with saying that, but in other cases, well, no, you have like the Coriolis effect because the atmosphere is independent, and so you have this, swirling that happens in different directions at the equator, which is why hurricanes spin in a particular direction if they're north of the equator or south of the equator, which uh, I don't know if I've ever seen any evidence to prove that correct. Um,
There was
uh,
something that, and I forgot because that's a part of another video that I watched that they were theorizing on traveling east to west. If you travel, it's when you travel one way or the other. When you're
it's
traveling
it's
against,
it's easier. That's the theory, that
yeah,
if you're going with rather than against, it'll be easier and it'll be quicker.
and that's why it
Um,
takes you longer to go. Like it takes me longer to get back from New York than to get to New York because I'm
so
going with. But then it wouldn't matter if I'm inside this Velcro, right? It
right,
shouldn't matter.
yeah,
It should be the
it
same
doesn't
going both
matter.
ways.
Yeah. So back to the lady's question about these flights. To get a little bit more into it, um, emergency flight landings are a peculiar thing to look at as well. Like somebody going from Australia to say something like Ecuador, and so there's an emergency during mid-flight. Where do they go land? If you look up those patterns and apply them onto the globe, and then apply them onto a more flat, friendly projection like um, an equidistant azimuthal projection. Um, the emergency flight landings make sense on a more flat map, but they make almost no sense on a globe. So that was a peculiar thing to look into, and lots of people have done videos related to that, and I would suggest, getting curious about that and taking a look, because it's pretty neat evidence to show you. Um, another thing that I've heard people argue is that there are different layers of our atmosphere that are going in different directions. So I don't know if you had looked at any of the satellite images of the smoke from California this year. Anybody?
Not satellite images, no.
Okay, so if you look at it, you'll see that there's like this lower smoke that is blowing in one direction, and then the higher plumes of smoke going in a completely other direction, because you have different, cold fronts moving in, and so you have like a colder layer of air underneath a hotter layer of air, and they're going to be moving in different directions, because one's going to try to go under the other and the other's going above that one. So you could theoretically pick the right stream going in the right direction, go high enough or low enough to have the wind going and pushing you either way that you're going. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Here's another one, and then this was what we were talking about before we actually came live. That Amber, that is actually because you see it it disappears from view. It doesn't dip down. It disappears from your view of sight. If you were to stand on a beach, flat beach, watching a ship sail away from you, eventually you would not be able to see it anymore, right? With your naked eye. And it would appear to dip down. It would definitely appear to do that. But if you were then to pick up a telescope that had like 100 times better zoom, vision than your eyes, you would be able to see the entire ship again. If it was going around a flat earth, when it disappears from view, it should disappear from view around the curve, right? Not just that it dips down below the horizon, because you cannot visualize visualize it anymore. You cannot see it physically with the naked eye, but that's the thing that I've seen some videos of that were really convincing to me, was seeing that ship. That's exact scenario. Seeing
Yeah.
that ship with 100 times zoom and then 300 times zoom or whatever, and watching it disappear with the one zoom, and then them increasing that zoom immediately and it coming right back into focus as if it had never dipped down. So what does that say? That doesn't say to me that there's a curve, that it's disappearing, because if it's disappearing over and around a curve to go, upside down on the other side of the earth, you'd never be able to get it back from a telescope. You'd never be able to retrieve that image. Is that right?
It's on the opposite side.
Yeah. Yeah. And you should ask questions, Amber. That's the great thing, is that when I first started exploring this, it was not something that I ever even consciously thought about. The earth is round, right? It's round. That's what we're taught. But when it was given to me in context of some of these things that were really, really, I couldn't really argue, I had to go look up things for myself. I started to think and consider, what if? What if? And the best part is, because if I say what if, it doesn't impact my life. If I say what if on a lot of conspiracies, there are a lot of conspiracy theories that could really impact my life personally. You know what I mean? Like, there's some things, like things that could really harm the human, but a flat earth as opposed to a globe, the only people that it would harm being flat is NASA, really. Because they would have built us out of millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for a space program that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
Not that I don't even believe the space exists, but not in the way that we're exploring it. Does that make sense?
And all the clothing and toys and amusement rides, Space Mountain, like the whole, it's in
Star
all
Wars,
of the
Star Trek.
Everything that you pay to go see, a lot of it there is based on this space idea. It's very intriguing.
Is extremely intriguing. And when we talk about space and space exploration, and I think to myself about the moon landing, not necessarily just the moon landing, but the fact that we have never again gone, is we went in 60, was it 69?
Yeah, till 74, I believe.
Yeah, and the first time we went to the moon, it was a successful moon trip, right? The first time we went, it was successful, correct? That was their first and only flight to the moon. So they say, which to me is ridiculous in and of itself. Is how do you travel into a frontier unknown without some kind of practice? You know what I mean? Like, how do you send someone all the way successfully to the moon without any kind of practice? But not only that, it was 69. Now it's 2020.
Without computers.
Without computers, without satellites, right?
Yeah.
How did they project images back to the Earth, but we can't even get a solid cell phone signal here on Earth in most places? I mean, like, in 2020, like, how did that work?
It's very ridiculous.
It is.
And what concerns me is, like, oh, well, how do you propel yourself in this vacuum of space? Because if I say I just, like, shake up my soda and open it, it'll just spray everywhere, right? But if I shake it up and open it and suck it all out, like, there's no, like, pressure building up. I'm relieving all the pressure. So how could the can be propelled the other way because of what's shooting out of it if I'm sucking out what's shooting out? And that's kind of what happens in space, is like, well, you have this low pressure, and if you've ever done anything with pneumatics and pressure, this low pressure will suck away whatever's going into it, and so you cancel out the what you use to propel you forward. Right, how rocketry works is at first it blasts off of the land, and then it uses so much power because it's pushing off of the atmosphere to propel you forward. Well, when you don't have any more atmosphere, like they say, uh, what are you pushing off of?
Right. If we're all weightless up there, there's nothing to. And the thing is that, but how did we know all these things about the moon before anybody went there? It was all
Yeah,
theory, right? You
yeah,
can't you can't explore a place you've never been. You cannot have facts about a place you've never been. You can't know that nobody knew that you're weightless on the moon,
yeah.
or that you can't breathe the atmosphere until we went, right?
Well,
Like
they had kind of used the theories that were put forth.
theories.
The
But who
theory,
sends
right?
people into space on a potentially deadly mission well, I guess scientists do. That's what NASA
Yeah,
does. Yes.
yeah.
So my other thing was like, this was our first successful landing, our only successful landing to the moon, but there were already cameras sitting there in perfect position ready to take pictures
Yeah, to take the
of
shot.
the
Yeah.
of the thing landing. How did that happen? How did
Well, somebody put the camera out there on set.
Yes, on set, exactly. And then left it there while they left, right? And the supposed the shadows and stuff. Oh my goodness! But
Yeah,
the
no,
biggest thing
there's
for
a lot.
me is that all evidence, all the science, all the everything that was put together by the scientists and the astronauts that went to the moon, gone. We can't recreate it. We've not
Oh
been
yeah,
able to
no.
recreate it.
Oh, and we're so advanced. We're living in the future.
Right.
Don't you know?
How have we not gone back to the moon?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we like to think that we're living in the future, but in 2020, we realized that all the doctors have been wrong through every pandemic leading up till now. And you're just supposed to, have Hanes make you some cloth masks and you're good.
Did you see Southern Engineering's question? How
Mm.
could you get like astrophysicists, people like astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson to lie about Earth being round when you can't keep a lie a secret in a room of 20 or more people?
Well, he
Um,
doesn't argue that it's round. He argues that it's a more of a pear-shaped oblate spheroid.
he argues that it's not flat, though, which is
Yes, yes.
like he doesn't really argue for his. He argues why it's not flat.
You want to
But
know
he's
why?
also probably a Masonic.
Yeah, well, he wants to be popular. He's sold out to the man, to the guys in charge, and says, "Sure, I'll say that. Everybody loves it. I'll be awesome. Most college kids will think I'm the coolest dude ever. I'm like way cooler than Bill Nye ever was, and now they're catching Bill Nye saying things completely opposite of the videos that we put out when we were children. So he's like the new Bill Nye." New and improved, and yeah, I'm sure that he's very comfortable
But,
saying whatever he's supposed to say
well, right,
with,
yeah,
with the backing of the media and all of modern science and everything.
and
Yeah,
money,
he's a rock star.
money, money, money,
Money, money, money.
money, and power. It's what makes the world go round, don't you know?
I mean, and when you start
That
doing
just I realized money made the world go round. That's what power made the world go round,
right,
literally.
yeah,
But so yeah, so there's um I believe, I don't know what I believe. I believe that I would like to have my mind open to all possibilities, that I don't there are things that I learned in school, not about Earth, in general, that were later proven to be false. School education is nothing more than indoctrination into a way of thinking, and so I just like to think that there's any possibility. And there is no way for me to believe in this, to believe 100% in what I'm being told by NASA, when we can't we have not managed. This is such, we did it in 69.
Yeah.
We did it in 69.
But not in my lifetime.
No. And yeah. But it's not, people say, well, we did it once. Why should we do it again? Well, because shit's advanced.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to go back and see whether the moon has changed
Right. Well,
since you were last there?
You don't want to go back. Why are you trying to go to somewhere even farther away, like Mars?
Right. Well, because they have to set
you're good.
They have to set their sights on. Yeah, you go once, you're good, right? You go once, you're good. Yeah. You don't have to do it again. But they're setting their sights on something that is going to cost more money, so NASA can get more money. So it's going to be it's so unattainable, it seems, that when they do it, it's going to be, oh yeah, no doubt. There's no doubts in our mind. This is real.
Well, I don't know how anybody can keep falling for the same old shtick. You know, they're like, oh well, we can't meet the deadline because this is much harder than we thought. Although it wasn't that hard for them in the 60s and 70s. And then they're like, well, there just wasn't enough money to complete the project, and we couldn't make the deadline, and we're going to need a whole new round of millions of dollars to get started on the next phase. And it never ends. And that's all I heard in my life. I never heard, yay, we succeeded. No, it's just, oh no, we failed.
Yeah.
So why is Earth the only flat planet in our solar system?
Can I answer this really quick from my perspective? You probably have a different answer, but from my perspective, when I'm thinking about it, let's just have the theory that the Earth is flat. Just because the Earth is flat doesn't mean it's a cube. It's still round. It's still it's circle shape. So if you're looking up at the moon, if you're looking at the Earth from anywhere above the Earth, like if you were to be able to go above the flat Earth, let's just play devil's advocate. If you were to travel straight up from the center of the flat Earth all the way up, you'd look down and you'd see a circle. You wouldn't see a globe, but you'd see a circle, like a plate, right? Like the shape of a plate. And why can't that be the same thing about the other planets? But the thing is you only see what NASA has shown you. You have never seen a planet. You've never seen with your own two eyes a planet, a circular globe planet. That's my thing.
Well, we look at these wandering stars, which they used to be called, and we can assume, oh, it looks round and it's probably just spherical like everything else. And that's what anybody would expect to think, Amber's that's a popular question, but to the point of why would we be the only flat thing? Well, it's kind of like asking, why isn't the pool table round if all the pool balls above it are round?
Oh, good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we don't know why, but it's also, we don't know. What would be the point in lying about the Earth being flat? Couldn't NASA make just as much money either way? NASA would not have been able to be even started if the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Because there was no need, right? I mean, well, maybe not. Maybe.
I think it's an attack against most religions, to kind of make them out to be just silly old stuff. All of them. Everybody who had some superstition, right? All of the religions are worthless, right? And you just need to follow science. Go party, like, share, subscribe, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and then
Did we lose you?
Holly, you got a microphone issue.
Sorry, I was muted. Southern said, I don't see many published astrophysics saying the Earth is flat, though. To me, it's just like, why would you go into astrophysics to prove the Earth is flat? You wouldn't.
Well,
You'd be shunned. You'd be put
I
out of
don't
your
I don't say anything against my boss and what they have me do. I go to work and I make my money.
right.
So if I want to be an astrophysicist, I'm going to go produce whatever they think I think they would like, and hopefully I can get published and get recognition, and everybody loves me.
That's what we're saying, Amber, is that the Christian Bible does insinuate that it's flat, but if it's indeed round, like the people that purported it to be, wouldn't that shake some faith
Yeah,
in the
it's
Bible?
an attack on your faith because you're
Yeah,
reading. If you're reading ancient texts, they're not talking about the globe. You know, they're talking about Earth. You know, they don't give it a rotundity.
yeah, characteristic.
Yeah, no, most
Yeah,
people say it's held fast. You know, it doesn't move. You know, I can stack up a bunch of rocks, and even though they tell me that we're going in a curve, uh, just over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. You know, I think it's something like maybe 800 miles an hour where I live. But there's no turbulence. There's nothing that really is ever going to knock these rocks down unless the wind or maybe like a tornado or something. So I mean, there is no experiment that ever proved any motion. You know, one of the most famous experiments actually got a null result, which means nothing. There's no motion. We didn't detect anything, even with brilliant ideas and tools. You know, the most advanced tools of the day at the time. Uh, Nobody's ever been able to measure any motion.
right. I did see a video like 3 or 4 years ago with some kind of experiment like that, and I can't remember what it was. I would like to say I would like to say that Southern Engineering, which I'm thinking is is Josh. Um, Josh, if you should take your brother's telescope and prove that it is round. Like go and do the little experiments that we've talked about, where you can watch a ship disappear and then suddenly it reappears with a more zoom, with the more power your eye has, the longer you can see it. So show me where this curve happens, where it
Okay,
starts to dip down at some point.
here's an idea, because one of the reasons that I really latched on to this whole idea and have been curious about it is because I used to build things, and in construction, there's some very old, very useful tools called a plumb, a level, and a square. So, on a globe model, my plumb, level, and square would cause me problems because the square wouldn't work. I couldn't use my plumb to make this post stand straight up and be parallel with another post because they're apart from each other, and on the globe they'll be at a different angle.
Right. That's one
Right.
of the videos I saw too.
So
But
if I
they
were if I were
sorry.
to build say a giant super warehouse for Amazon that was like 1 mile cubed, which I know is an insane idea, but to really see the effects, you have to exaggerate the concept. And so if you build that 1 mile cube with a plumb, level, and square on a globe, the roof will be excessively larger than the base, because all of your four corners would be leaning away from each other. And that's not how you build. If I'm going to build a cube, it's going to be a cube. And there's going to be parallel lines, and it's not going to be curving away from each other, or bending away, leaning away from each other. And so that really kind of solidified in my mind, like, okay, well, how would I build something? I would build it with the concepts that work with the flat earth.
Right. And they've also, from what I understand, and they were like, the curvature of the earth was never put into the plans for building the railroads cross country.
Well, no,
It
I
was
used to
never
build
written into their engineering plans.
I used to build roads and sewers. And so, yeah, if you got a couple miles of new road for a subdivision, and you have to grade out the landscape, the schematics that they give you don't have any adjustments for curvature. Well, and why would they? The gentleman who came and surveyed the property, it did a plane survey and used techniques that coincide with flatness to make his survey.
Right. Heather, this was one that we'd have to give a visual of. If you imagine the globe, the way the globe is, and how the North Pole is at the top and Antarctica is at the bottom. If you were to take that globe and just like, you could actually physically do this with a globe that you have at home, and just take the paper that they have the map written on, right? Or displayed on, and just start peeling it off of that actual physical flat globe and stretch it out into a flat surface. That's what flat Earth would be like. Now, those little points where Antarctica are, that would be the edge. That would be, but it's not really an edge. It's just an ongoing flat plane. We are a pocket inside of an ongoing flat plane. Antarctica runs around the perimeter or the circumference. Am I right? The circumference of the Earth. It's not sitting at the bottom. So you just take that globe. The North Pole stays right up there in the middle, and you take the little sections of the globe and then flatten them out on your table. You come up with a disc shape instead of a globe, like a round shape, like a plate. And Antarctica's right around the edge, but there is no edge. You'd never fall off of the Earth.
Well, here's one thing that I think people need to understand is that I'm not saying that I know anything. It's we're here asking questions, and everybody talking about flat Earth is generally asking questions and trying to apply what they've learned in their life to say, well, this is how I came to it, and this is what I understand. And really, most people who can subscribe to that are more in the mindset of saying, no, we just don't know. And everybody needs to be okay with saying that, there's things that we don't know. And we don't need to say that, oh, well, there's an edge over here. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's an edge to fall out. I know that if I try to build something, I'm going to do it in a flat manner. I know how the lake doesn't bulge in the middle. I know that when I climb to the top of the mountain closest to me, I can see 400 of miles. I don't know that things are round. I don't know if there's why you would even really think there's an edge, right? I mean, that's kind of a silly, oh, well, you're assuming that underneath us at some point it gets back to space and we're just like this disc floating or something, or like a bowl that's all the way full and it's flat. just floating in space. That's not the idea. The idea with the whole flat earth concept is that we don't know what's below us beyond roughly 8 miles. The Kola super deep borehole made by the Russians. They drilled roughly, I think, eight. Well, it could have been maybe 12 miles was the maximum that they had went. But that's as far as anybody's went into the crust of the earth. And so that's all that we can really say that we know. The rest is conjecture and just ideas.
Yeah. This is one of the things, like, and you said, we don't know, but I'm open to the possibility of all sorts of things. This is one of the things that I wish that I could sit you down and show you how it was explained to me. That they're not just flying across a plane and then you just fly one edge to the other. You can still fly in a circle around, not around, but
above the plate.
Above a plate. You can still fly from China, then keep going west and come back to China eventually. It's not like you guys are picturing it to be like this cardboard, or this piece of paper or something like that. It is a plate. Or it isn't. I'm not going to say it is. It is theorized to be a plate. Let's just say that flat Earth is real. Sorry about my dog. He knocked something over in there. He's very upset.
So what we do know is that
yes,
there's
Heather, like a frisbee,
a magnetic pole at the center in the north. We know that. They don't make south pointing compasses for Australians, so that they can get their bearing. So when you get into these ideas, you have to consider the ancient texts and what they were talking about as far as their understanding. And when you look at like the Hebrews, they were talking about the rakia, which is a term for what most people would call the dome now. And so the idea there is, biblically speaking, that God pounded out and created this barrier to give us a place that was suitable for life. And I understand that we live in a culture where it's popular to be removed from the idea of God, but we have to look at our history, and that's a huge part of it. The thought that we had a creator that made this place for us, and so I like to consider the idea of a dome because, well, it's an ancient idea. I've heard things nowadays from modern science that sound similar. There's what science has presented as an electron barrier, and kind of the physics that exist where we live and what happens is really strange. If you think about, like, when you get further away from the sun, and closer to sea level or below, it gets hotter. But when you climb up the mountain and you get closer to the sun, you get cooler. And then you go up into a plane, it'll get freezing cold and you have frost on the windows. But if you went up higher, it would start to warm up again, and then get, what by the numbers that they express, excessively hot, into the thousands of degrees at the higher parts of our atmosphere. So it really is a weird place that we live, and it's hard for anybody to say what it is. I can tell you that there were operations by the United States. One operation was called Operation Fishbowl, right? And they're shooting nukes up into space and exploding them. Well, why would you do that? What are you trying to explode up there? That makes no sense.
Okay, so this is a question I don't know if you can answer. It was very hard for me to articulate when I first was learning about it. Let me find it. It was about solar and lunar eclipses, and in one of Eric Dubai's videos, he does explain it very well, but I could never do it justice, so I don't know if you can explain it. And Amber, if you're willing, I can send you some links to videos that that are really fascinating. I mean, they're so well explained, and so in such good language that like just laymen can understand, that you might be interested. We will be talking about CERN next week.
Look up the Selenahelion, because that's a phenomenon that happens related to the eclipse. It's something that by all technicalities shouldn't happen unless you are on a flat earth. But it's an eclipse where you can see the sun and the moon at the same time. Right? If you look on opposite sides of the sky, if you look to the west, you'll see the sun setting, and if you look to the east, you see the moon rising.
Yes. Oh, that happens over here all the time on the West Coast, all the time.
Let me see if I can find the spelling so people can look it up.
I will absolutely, Amber, send you this video. The first video I ever saw that really made me think. It made me question. And like I said, I still don't know what I believe, but I know that it's interesting to find out and to question. And then, for me, it would be, while he's looking for the spelling, for me, it would be like I would bring something up and then people would dispute it with their science, and I'd be like, okay, I get it, but then something else would pop up. So it's been a constant for me, a constant back and forth of I believe or I don't believe. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not here to convince anybody either way. I mean, just here to talk about fun ideas. So Selenahelion, Selenelion. It occurs when both the sun and an eclipsed moon can be observed at the same time, which the eclipsed moon should be happening because the Earth is in between the moon and the sun. So how could I look up and see a direct line between the sun and an eclipsed moon when the Earth is supposedly blocking?
That is good. I love the stuff that I've seen. I mean, and it's just the idea of it, just the idea that. Sorry, my grandson is being very loud. Just the idea that it could be what they say. And when I used to, I mean, quite honestly, when people used to say flat before, I mean, I'm going to say it's not even been 5 years that I've really done research on it. Before that, it was just like people said flat Earth, and I imagined what everybody else in here that has not done any research on it is imagining flat Earth to be, which is, like, well, where's the edge? How come we don't fall off? But also, something that Eric Dubay talks about is something about, oh my gosh, why things rise and fall, right? It doesn't have to do with gravity. It has to do with density, right?
Well, that's why balloons float.
Right.
Yeah, and the same reason why a rock would fall instead.
And air bubbles come up in water. It's, or a rock sinks in water.
It's all
not because of gravity, because of density.
We know buoyancy because ships float and all that. We just fail to apply it to uh, air. Although we love balloons.
Heather, yes, we love blues. Heather, I am finding the link for you. I'll link it in just a second. So, do you have anything else like really good, really good, like flat Earth stuff that like you've heard, or like really ridiculous stuff that you've heard that was flat Earth?
I mean, there's all kinds of fun ideas. Like there's maybe four doorways out of the dome, in Antarctica, and that's what's being guarded so that nobody goes out there. I really liked. I came across some neat ideas like a star in a jar. And I thought it was very intriguing. And so what these scientists were doing is they had a jar of water, and then they would send a frequency through, and the frequency would rip open like a bubble, like in the center, and then it would keep ripping it, and it would start producing its own light. And I kind of came across that watching all these videos about the wandering stars and different ideas of what we're seeing could be, how it could be different. And so the star in a jar was very fascinating to me, to think that somebody can create this tiny little light source in this, it was just a jar of water using some sound.
I would like a link to see something like that, like so what you're talking about. I'm still looking for this link but like a video, link of what you can get it to me, though elsewhere. So now, one of the other things is that Antarctica, that a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people know about the Antarctica Treaty. Could you speak on that a little bit? I'm still looking for this link for them.
There's a great deal about Antarctica. I was way into conspiracies from a young age, and so the thought that the Nazis went and built secret bases and disappeared down there was a fascinating idea. And then, I stumbled upon expeditions to Antarctica who were led by Admiral Byrd, and he did say some seemingly peculiar things about what was there, and how much was there, and the number of expeditions that they took, and then the fact that after those expeditions, really, I don't know if they found something, but that's when we get this agreement, this multinational agreement from everybody for some reason, stating that we need to keep this pristine and we don't need to touch it. And I think maybe that could be because Admiral Byrd was explaining on public television that there's just massive amounts of coal and resources that are just sitting there waiting for somebody to come get. And so that's the cover, I think, that's used to create the treaty. I think that some of it had to do with the oceanography and the importance of the southern portion of the ocean, which it's it's kind of like you sandwich good things with bad so that you can go under the cover of that good thing. But at the end of the day, you're stopping exploration. You're stopping people from, having the ability to take their ship out into the world and go sail down to Antarctica. And some people just want, they just want to go and see. But to make it illegal to do so and to have everybody agree on it, and I believe it's the longest agreement that we have as far as an international treaty of that nature, the longest standing agreement with the most nations, and it really just, it's a dead stop for anybody who would want to go down and see for themselves. Because if they do let you go, you could take some tour, and you can be led to this little. They have a little swirl stick with a reflective globe on top as a ceremonial, like, yay, you made it to the South Pole. But it's not actually at the South Pole. It's just put next to a base somewhere, far enough away for people to feel like they achieved something and went through the elements to get to this prize, the South Pole, an actual pole,
But
which
God
is just ridiculous.
forbid you stray anywhere from that tour, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean you couldn't you couldn't
Yeah.
go.
And you
So
cannot even approach with a boat, like you said that. You cannot
no,
even approach the coast of Antarctica with your boat.
no, you would be run off
Not
way
only you
before
could be
you
arrested,
got there.
shot,
Correct. Yeah.
or stabbed
So
in the back, like my grandson said.
well, the problem that comes up with that is, well, nobody can go check on anything for themselves. You have to be a particular uh, expert of some kind in your field that is performing a task down there for a government or a third party agency doing some kind of research. So we would have to trust those people the same that we would have to trust NASA or any other expert that's thrown in front of us today. We have to just trust that whatever they say they found down there is what they say. It is. So I think that people should be allowed to travel. Oh, it's too dangerous. You let people still climb to the top of Mount Everest, although plenty of people have died. Like, screw off. Let me
People
go.
can go into the Sahara Desert or into the jungles without
Yeah.
guides and be eaten by any number of animals or what have you. So what is it about Antarctica where nothing is survivable, for one theory, right? Is that you
Well,
can't, you can't grow plants there. I mean, that nothing can live there. Nothing, life can't be sustained down there. So
that's what
what
they'd
is
like
there
us to
besides the
believe.
cold that's going to get me? The abominable snowman?
Well, I don't know. All the nice warm uh, geyser pools and such. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
all frozen down there. The
right.
videos that came out of some of the expeditions, they're showing these lakes everywhere.
So yeah, it's very confusing to me why that is like that. I can see, okay, if it's oil, if there is something, some fossil fuel there that is they're producing, and they're trying to get, so that it's not interrupted, that it's not tainted or whatever, and that's why there's this multinational um treaty to keep it safe. But then why not just say that? Because,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you're already not letting people approach the island. You won't be letting them approach it anyway. Anyways, why not just tell us that's what you're doing? I don't buy it for a second. That's the thing to me, is these countries that are enemies. I'm talking to them. countries that are not, that have no, there's no, could you turn that down, please? There's no reason for them to be getting along, to have a treaty over one unexplored continent.
How is this mutually beneficial?
You were listening to what? What was that?
No, how would this be mutually beneficial to all parties involved, even though
Right.
they're warring over everything else? Yeah. No, it's
Right.
a good question.
That's the one that one of the ones that gets me, is because if it hasn't been fully explored, we have no reason to know why it needs to be kept this
Well, okay.
pristine.
One of the things that I love to do is I use Google Earth all the time because I still get to see all kinds of places, and I like to find things like star forts and stuff, ancient mounds and things like that. But I also like to look at older maps and going through maps from like the 1400s to like the 1600s is my favorite, because America is so strange in a lot of them, because it was they say it's very unexplored at the time, but they did like put like California way off into the ocean, and things like that, and like a huge lake, from Vancouver up into Canada on that side. Um, but one of the most interesting maps had 4 islands surrounding the North Pole, with rivers coming out, 4 rivers coming out, and so there was inscriptions about what was on each island, and the map was talking about, there's pygmies over here, and just odd things like that. So doing some digging into it, I find that um, it comes from England. And who was the king? King John, or maybe before. Whoever was with who was with Merlin, right? So he sends out people to go explore in the north, and many years later he gets a group, part of a group, that returns and tells him about what is up there. Um, and they describe this huge, like lodestone mountain, like a giant magnetic mountain right in the center, and water springing forth and parting in 4 different ways, um, and going out into the rest of the world. And so that kind of led into, okay, well, the cradle of civilization, a lot of times it is shown with this mountain with a temple in the middle, and then 4 rivers springing forth from it, and going out in all 4 different directions. Um, a lot of ancient cultures kind of had that same kind of idea, that the North Pole, the center of the earth. I mean, even biblically, that's the seat of the throne of God, is just above the North Pole.
Wow. Yeah. Um, I don't know what Azure is talking about, and um, started melting in seeds, the seed vault or something like that. Is that what you were talking about Or did you see her comments or no? I don't know if you can see comments. Are you there?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Azure's talking about seeds, and a seed vault or something. I
Okay.
don't.
Yeah, I can't remember
Do you know what she's talking about? Or
what country it is, but there is a seed vault.
the
I don't know, is it Norway?
Svalbard seed vault?
Svalbard. That's okay. Yeah,
Svalbard.
it's on Greenland. That'd be like
Oh,
north side of Greenland, if I'm remembering correctly. Right, and the seed vault, you know, I guess if you were like the people on the top and you were trying to survive through cataclysms that you had been warned about from your ancestors, yeah, you would keep a seed vault. But you probably go beyond that with the science that we have today, and you'd keep like a DNA vault and uh, of all the specimens of anything that you could find. Keep a vault of everything, like an ark or something, to store all of what we know to be used, maybe with future technology to bring it back or something like that. Anyway, sorry I went off on a little tangent.
oh no, that's okay. But she was talking about. She was asking if that's where it was, but it's in Greenland. You
Well,
believe?
the North Pole. No, I think that because we all know about Greenland, we don't know what's up beyond that, really. Because like even the Google Earth map gets all fucked up, and excuse my language.
That's
Like
okay.
it's just a bunch of seams of pictures that come to points, and it's just useless, right? Like, are you telling me that you can't just give me like a straight picture of what's up here? Why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that? You tell me that, oh, it's 2020 and this is the shit that you give me,
Yeah.
some
Right.
pinned together shit. It's all advanced technology, right? Thanks. Thanks, Google, you fucking asshole.
That's what we were saying right before we came on. Is it like, or maybe I said it during the live, is when you talked about them going to the moon and having like instant pictures relayed back. Well, maybe not instant, but within, I can't go down to my mom's house and get a cell signal. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's 2020.
Yeah,
We're so technologically advanced, supposedly. We should be able to go back to the moon. We should.
I'm mad.
Yeah.
I'm mad. It's 2020, and we don't have a functional jetpack. We
Right?
don't have.
Well, I mean, did you watch the Jetsons when you were young? I was given a
Oh yeah.
really,
Oh yeah. Pack that car up in a suitcase.
yeah, I was given a very, very, very bright future.
Yeah.
The little
No, all the movies too.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
All
we
those
probably
movies.
should have them by now, right?
I
I
mean,
mean,
if
really.
technology is advancing like you're telling me it is,
Right.
I don't
So,
have much faith in technology nowadays.
no, 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 no. So, hey, Foz, you got any questions? You've been so quiet.
No, not really.
No, not really. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I find it to be so fascinating, and I wish that if more people would just, instead of just saying that that's not true, you're stupid, just do a little research. Just some of it, because it's, even if you can say, well, this is what science tells me, but you can look at that and say, well, that makes sense too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that makes sense too. But the only way I'm ever going to believe anything that I am told is if I can physically experience it myself, Like, I believe there is a sun. Do I believe it is as far away as they say? I don't know. We've never traveled there. I've never gone there. Like,
Well,
what,
they
you know?
they tell me that the sun rays, they travel so far that they're all coming parallel at me, but I can see the sun shining through the clouds, and I get, these angled rays of light.
Right.
It's not
Right.
coming in straight. It looks like it's radiating from a ball.
Right. Right.
But what
Yeah.
that is, I don't know.
I don't either. We've never
Right?
gone and explored it. So how can anybody, they can hypothesize. I get in this argument with my ex, not really an argument. Of course, we were tripping on acid when I did it, but said he was saying something about the sun's temperature. And I said, but how do you know? Well, they can hypothesize by, experiments done here on Earth, blah, blah, blah. I said, but if they've never been to the sun and confirmed those things, they can't do experiments here on Earth. This isn't the sun.
Right.
He gets so mad at me. He was like, you were
Right.
probably the worst student. And I'm like, no, teachers did not like me because I like to ask questions because I just don't believe much of what's, but that's not true. I did believe when I was in school. But then I went to college and they reteach you everything in college. And then you get out of college and you start learning life and that reteaches you everything you ever knew,
I'll tell you what, I loved space. God, I watched all the shows. I made, space decorations for my room. I thought it was the coolest thing. I watched all the documentaries, right? And so this is what I hate the most. People, they talk to me as if they assume that I don't know all of the things that they know. And it's like, no. You need to understand that I know double, right? I understand what that guy said and what this one said.
Right.
Right. I got to think. I got to think way more.
Taught. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like, no, I loved that. I watched all of it, all the documentaries, while kids were playing outside. I was watching some, Discovery documentary about this, this asteroid that was found. It was awesome. So yeah, it sucked. And that's why I went through this period of trying to rationalize, like, oh God, like how am I supposed to feel about this? Just this whole idea is like ruining my day, my relationship with some friends, even like it sucks. But I appreciate going through it because now I can talk to whoever. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna make somebody with a different idea feel stupid because they don't share the same viewpoint as me. How could I? They've probably never heard most of what I would say. Right.
Because they don't bother to either listen to somebody or do their own research.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the problem. That's the problem, is that, like, because I'm assuming you were taught globe theory like your whole life,
Yeah.
And so we do have that knowledge. Now we have other knowledge. Yeah. And I like to just get into discussions with it about, I used to, because like you said, like people would get, like, they got angry about it. They got angry about the fact that like really quickly angry about the idea of a flat earth. And so even though I don't fully not believe, and I'm not fully 100% believe in it, I would use all my knowledge at parties to talk to people as if I was a 100% flat earther. Like there was no sway, and they would people would get so mad. Oh, it's just so crazy.
So here's my question. What's a flat earther?
Well, that's what they call a flat earther, is somebody that believes in flat earth, that believes the earth is flat.
It's people, everybody who believes that we're being lied to about particular things in science.
Yes.
It's not that there's no like doctrine that I'm following. I'm just asking, like you're saying, I'm just asking questions. There's no belief system that I have. I believe that I don't know, and that guy doesn't know either.
Right.
And
But there are people that say there is a flat Earth society, you
Well,
know.
they
But like I said,
yeah,
I don't believe that it's
but
a
controlled
100%.
opposition,
What was that?
the controlled opposition,
Yes.
right? Where
Yes.
you get some dipshit on there being like, "Oh, the Flat Earth Society's got members all around the globe."
Yes.
Oh, you're so
I think
flat.
that's, like I said, I don't think it's a
No,
real,
it's there to make it easily criticizable. Anybody
yes.
who steps into that kind of state of mind, that corner of the
Yes.
internet.
Which is anything that is opposing the status quo is gonna be, somebody's gonna come forward saying that they oppose it just to make it look stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to, and that's what that is. The Flat Earth Society did a documentary. I don't know if you saw it. Um, I don't know if it's still up. I think it was on Netflix, where it was, there was all this it was like about drama between the head speaker, the person that founded the society or something, and it shows a lot of people. Um,
So can I tell you about my internet experience? You know what I saw throughout these years. You
yes.
know, watching very closely to multiple YouTube personalities and such. So everybody started out kind of independently,
Hmm.
and they were doing kind of their own thing, thinking their own ideas, and then they kind of got it seemingly lumped together in some pocket of YouTube, and so they were seeing each other's videos, and so then they got involved with each other, and let's have each other on, and then a lot of them kind of seemed to be leading in a false direction. Um, and so it became really hard to find somebody that I felt was kind of more of an independent researcher, and not trying to collaborate and get views and be popular and kind of get a corner on this pocket of YouTube and then start trying to have their videos monetized or something, which didn't, you know, once it got popular enough, everybody was shut down, right?
Right.
And you'd see all of these, you know, people that were just talking about these ideas, arguing about scientific procedure and how it doesn't seem to be applied today rigorously like it should, and people. Um, so everybody, you got to watch their progression because it was all new to everybody at the time because it just like instantly blew up with Eric Dubay. So a lot of people, I've even seen videos talking about, well, yeah, Eric Dubay is leading the PSYOP, right? He's a CIA guy, and he's out there trying to like just do this psychological operation to lead people to, I don't know, stupid land or something. Uh, but I think that he was genuinely like interested in what previous people were doing scientifically to try on their own to figure out the nature of their world. And then he became very unpopular, right? Everybody started trashing him as trying to be just the man, the guy, trying way too hard to get all the recognition for this movement of people who are trying to figure out flat Earth.
Right. Right. And do you think that Eric, um, I mean, would you say like of all the people, like if you had to say, look at this person's documentation, look at his evidence, look at his research. Not saying it is Eric Dubay, but who would you say it would be? I mean, for me, he's always been. I know he has this very calming, soothing voice. So, like you said, you might fall asleep listening to
Yeah.
him, but it is a really nice voice to listen to. You just got to admit.
Problem is that he has a condescending kind of arrogance.
Yes, he does. When
in
he's
his
talking about the spinning
delivery.
ball, he
Yeah.
does.
So that can be, I've noticed, a big turnoff to people. So he wasn't really my go-to. So my go-to is that gentleman I had told you about earlier, Jay Tolan Media One,
Okay.
because he just put his recordings up there, and what I saw was just so astounding. That it's and everybody that I've showed it to, even if they know that I like to consider ideas like flat Earth, um, it's made them take a step back and think, this is weird, right? It was the one
Right.
thing that was, I don't know, delivered simply, and you just see it, and it's jaw dropping.
Yeah, I will.
Like,
I'm looking forward to seeing it. You had to drop that link in Facebook Messenger for me. Uh, did you see the Netflix documentary Behind the Curve? It was ridiculous, I think.
yes, no, it's not
No,
about a curve or a flatness.
no,
It's about degrading the people who are, going about,
trying
trying
to.
to sell this.
Yes, yes, that was what I was trying to say about the people that infiltrate movements, to make the movement look bad, or the
Yeah,
belief look bad. That's what I believe. Who believes that these people, because they do that experiment in that documentary, right, where and it fails. But why would somebody that is trying to prove a theory put something out that disproves their theory, right? You wouldn't
yeah.
do it. You'd say, let's do a
No,
different experiment,
it was a gotcha thing.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It was like, it was the people believe that people would watch something like that and believe that it was put out by people that believe what they believe about the earth is so beyond me, that how gullible people must be. Like, it's so ridiculous. And that's what I was saying. Like, the people that I know that truly believe flat Earth, they say that they see so many people in their circles that come because they had the flat Earth meetings. They have meetings, they get together, they go have coffee, whatever, and discuss the theories. But they say they will have people come to those meetings that are just like beyond out there. And they don't know if they genuinely believe what they're saying or if they are feeding them a bunch of bullshit to make their little group look bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
No,
interesting.
it's frustrating, and so it's really hard to know. Well, who do I try to get my information from? Because it's not easy to find information. If you don't have somebody leading you to question things, you're just not going to. There's no resources to go to for flat Earth except for, the conspiracy side of the internet. And so everybody's just coming on here, and I learned to watch out for people that are clicking together,
Yeah.
because they're usually up to no good. Let's join forces, and we'll just both like exchange subscribers and everything, and that's what it becomes about. And they lose the sight of what they used to do. They would come up with their own experiments, and now they don't anymore, and they're just, I don't know, upset. A lot of
Right.
people. But I don't like that they really made out the documentary that you were talking about to be about this group of Christian people that are just silly, and Yeah, could you see that in there in the documentary?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that
I
is
mean,
the religious group.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I could see that it was clearly to me belittling these people. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was not overtly obvious because they were obviously trying to make it look like it was coming from their actual viewpoint, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. And it's sad. So you were saying something about how if people question something but they have no sources to get answers to that, or even like, explore those questions, then they just won't. You think
Yeah.
that that's just true and indicative of what our world is? Just about everything?
Well, we're led specifically away from it.
But not just this,
You
about
know?
lots of
No,
stuff,
about
right?
most things. Yeah, like
Yeah.
we're led in a direction. Everybody's supposed to kind of think uniformly, or not so much uniformly, but in opposing sides
Right.
always.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
making sides divide and conquer.
Right. But even in our sides, a lot of people think uniformly about things,
Yeah,
about a
yeah,
lot of things. Yeah.
because you'll get like, okay, we're all working off of this little bit of information. So one of the one of the things that I found very peculiar in all my research, right? I was trying to figure out, well, why was it a problem for, ancient groups of people to try to figure out how far away the sun was? And it comes down to, well, you have to have two sides of a triangle to get your hypotenuse. So when you're trying to figure out the distance, and you're using like two telescopes on the ground that are a particular distance apart, and trying to measure their angles, you run into the problem where you only get the bottom of the triangle, and you don't know the distance from the left telescope to the moon and the right telescope to the moon. So you couldn't calculate it in ancient times. And then all of a sudden, a gentleman comes along who, I think Harvard stated that he was just brilliant. His name was Christian Huygens. He developed the pendulum clock. Very famous gentleman. He came up with the method by which the astronomical unit was derived. So an astronomical unit is the distance from the sun to the earth. That's one astronomical unit. So the method by which he came to these calculations, he thought, well, Venus is probably the same size as Earth.
Really?
Yes, and that was it. So now, okay, now we'll assume that Venus is the same size as Earth, roughly, and then we'll watch it through, Venus's transition of the sun, and the time it takes to go across it, and the distance from Venus to the sun at its apex, at its two farthest points. And then you can measure, okay, well, this is the width that we would assume is this measurement of Venus. And then we'll see how many times we would have to place more Venuses and calculate all the way to the other side, or the sun. And so you can get, you can calculate all of everything now. We know all the sizes of all the things
Because of this one thing.
because he said Venus is probably the same size as Earth. Well, there's your science. That's what led us
Probably.
all down the road that we are. And but
Right.
who knows that, you know?
Right. Who
Not a
knows that?
lot of
Right.
people. Not a lot of people
No.
know who Mr. Huygens was.
No. I don't know a
think-
lot. I don't know a lot of scientists and stuff like that. I guess like that's probably one of the things that I should really get more into is the science of all of it, because there is science to prove one way and there is science to prove another way.
Yes.
I mean,
and
usually it's mostly math that proves the flat earth theory. It's usually
well, you can demonstrate.
you can demonstrate it. Yes, you can demonstrate it right here with the tools that you have at your disposal. You cannot demonstrate how far the sun is away from the earth with tools that you have at your disposal. That maybe
No.
NASA has at their disposal, but are they going to
Yeah,
let us
I
use
get it.
that?
No, and I don't. There's a lot of I ran into a lot of ideas. Remember, I had mentioned the balloon programs earlier.
Yes.
So I found this gentleman who, yeah, he was looking up European Space Agency balloon launches, and he found that they coincided with repairs of particular satellites that are supposed to be where you can't go up and repair them. He said, but it's a balloon launch taking equipment and floating it up effortlessly up to a satellite, supposedly. That's what they say. So he showed a couple clips of NASA launching satellites on balloons. There was a gentleman who was a famous scientist. Picard was his name, probably who they named Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay, I was going to say Jean-Luc Picard.
So, yeah, he was like a legitimate explorer, and he made a gondola, and he hung it from a balloon, and he floated up like 10 miles. And he looked out his little porthole, and he says that it looked like a plate with an upturned edge. That's what he could see. That's how he described it.
That's crazy.
And I think that there's no scientist today that would even be allowed to do that.
Right.
I
But
mean,
just then, as I said, there wasn't
scientists.
scientists back then, or they weren't called scientists back then. They were philosophers, right? Back then, that you couldn't say the Earth was round. Like you'd get shunned.
Heresy.
Yeah, heresy. Yeah. And now it is. I mean, it's not so much they don't say it's heresy now, because it's not against the Bible now to say that the Earth is flat.
Ridiculousness.
It is. It is. Do you think that in our lifetime we will see any definitive proof that is swaying? When I don't think so, because I think unless people start actually traveling into space, like regular Joe people traveling into space, and staying there and seeing it, I don't think they could prove it to one way or another. You know what I mean?
No, they
let somebody explore Antarctica without the government's permission or guidance, should I say?
Yeah. So you can't. Basically, it seems like you can't get close to the bottom of the dome. Not that I'm saying that that's particularly what I believe, but.
So you believe in the firmament, or
I always like to consider the idea.
So now, would the firmament be just over our little pocket, our little petal in the landscape?
So it gets weird. So how would a firmament naturally be created? And it seems I don't know. I've watched multiple conflicting ideas throughout the years. One of my favorites was actually the electric universe theory, and there was a lot of things that I liked about it, and it had neat explanations for um, uh, formations that we see on the planets that they show us or here on Earth. And they're talking about it. Think of it like if two planets did go too close to each other, and one has a positive, charge, and one has a negative charge, right? One would feed and shoot off a discharge, a massive amount, a planetary amount of electricity that would blast and carve out canyons and create what do they call them? Fulgamites, which are structures that you can see on a kind of a small scale with welding and stuff like that.
Say that word again. The whatamites?
Fulgamite.
Okay, so explain what
So a
a
fulgamite happens when you have the electricity making contact with a surface, and then surrounding debris that is oppositely charged would get sucked into it and create a column of whatever was sucked into it, with sand and little bits of everything, shells or diamonds and stuff like that. And so it makes a pillar where this lightning arc had struck. That's a fulgamite, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay. And so this is a theory or on how a firmament was.
So no, I took their ideas, right?
Okay.
So you get these an electric kind of understanding of our existence, and then you get into this kind of bubble, right? If we have
Okay.
this center magnet that's creating an electromagnetic field because of all the stuff surrounding all the matter exchanging electrons and flowing and everything, that it gives this breath of life within this bubble. So you could think of it kind of like the atmosphere is a bubble around the globe. So you have this bubble that's around the North Pole, but it's a toroidal field, and above the ground is just one half of this toroidal field, and up below the ground is an opposing half, and it makes the same field that you would find in a small scale around a magnet, right? So how would matter outside of that coming and interacting with that barrier? I could see a manner of which ice could form, very crystalline, super clear ice could form around this electromagnetic toroidal field, right? And so then you get into the Bible, right? Why would there be water up there? Because the waters above were split from the waters below, and this pocket was created for us.
Okay. Interesting. Would that then like it? Will that describe, or would that be the reason why you get cold when you go up in planes?
Well, you only get cold when you go up to a certain point. If you keep
Right.
going up, you get hotter. Hotter and hotter
Okay.
and hotter.
But we don't go up,
No,
up.
no.
So
And so
now,
that
if you were to believe in like you said, if you believe in the firmament, do you believe that the firmament, like I said, is just above, like you said, or just encases our Earth, or is it over the entire plane of this thousand? What did you say? And an unending, like
yeah,
not
infinite
unending,
flame.
obviously. Would you say it would be over that whole thing, or over just
Well, I've tried to
us?
think of it both ways, right? So I try to think of it based on this electromagnetic toroidal field idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to think, okay, well, so if we got a flat layer on the bottom, could there be a whole nother layer above that's created? You
That's
know,
just beyond us.
as above, so below, right? It could.
Yeah, as above, so
I
below.
mean, I don't know if there is some like dome structure that it actually encases us, and Antarctica is being protected so nobody can get to it. And then Operation Fishbowl, they were launching nukes at the dome trying to see if they could break it or something. Who knows?
So if do you believe that the dome has not been reached by man, like in flight? Like it's so far out
Well,
there, or
I don't,
is it penetrable?
I don't think so. I don't think that. I don't think anybody's
Gotten close?
got the capability to go that high. I think you run out of stuff, right? Since we're layered, right? You got all the heavy stuff on the bottom below you. Then you have less dense things, and then you have the lightest of things and the even lighter things above. Eventually, it's so light that there's nothing there. So maybe, if this was a bubble pocket world created for us by some insanely powerful something or other, um, I don't know. Like I like all of the ideas. I can't settle on one because I admit that I don't know.
Well, and we're limited in our ability to know, right? Because
Yeah.
I can't just build some kind of rocket and go travel and see if I can touch you know, to see it for myself, if I can answer any of those questions. And I don't know in our lifetime if we ever will, be able to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting though. It's interesting. Do you have kids?
I do.
Are
I got many.
are they going to public school?
Oh yes, they are. But they need to learn how to function in today's society, and then at home, I can impress upon them whatever I feel is necessary. But they need to
Right.
learn how to navigate the world in which they live.
Of course.
I can't deprive
But
them
you
of.
are not going to they're going to teach them how to question.
Yes, and
Yes.
I'm not gonna even lead them. Maybe they've heard me talk about some ideas with friends. Just because we're getting loud outside or something. So maybe they got an idea that I'm curious about all kind of ideas, but I really don't present too much of it to the kids. Although
No?
I do make them question as much as I can, but I want them to be able to foster a curiosity, and then just the same way as I was later led to question things in the manner that I do, I want them to have that. But of course, it'll probably be easier because I'll be,
Open to it.
kind of facilitating it in a gentle fashion,
Right.
because
You won't discourage them asking questions.
I'm not here to be like, all right, well, this is what they say, and this is what I say, and that's what it is. And
Right.
no, it's like, well, what should we think? Let's think
Right.
about this together.
Right.
Right?
Well, that's
'Cause
good.
I don't know, right? And then we would get into the whole discussion that we just had, and we'll just talk about random bits of evidence and different things that we could piece together. But that's why I like to try to boil things down to something that people do regularly or understand.
Right.
Because when you get into these huge, extreme, drastic changes, it doesn't go well. People, it hurts their brain. So
Right.
hurt.
Yes. No.
I don't want to hurt anybody's brain.
No. And some people are just more comfortable not questioning, you know what I mean? And I guess we can't fault anybody for not pushing themselves outside of their comfort zone. But
Yeah.
it's definitely, if I always ask my kids to ask if what they're being told feels right to them, does that feel like, or does that make sense to you based on
Yeah.
everything does it make sense? And if they're like, well, no, it doesn't make sense, I'm like, well, then you should research more and tell them, does make sense to you.
Yeah.
That's
For
why
sure.
flat earth will always be or earth, the shape or the everything of our planet, to me, might not ever be questioned because I cannot thoroughly answer my questions, because I physically, for me, I would only be satisfied if I flew up in the air myself and was able to
Yeah.
fly around a circular globe floating and spinning in the sky.
Yeah.
Would I be, or in space, would I be satisfied that it is one way or the other, or
Did
see
you?
the opposite? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it, but I like
Mhm.
to plant little seeds, especially in friends that are kind of accepting of me having different ideas. Like one friend, one year I bought him this little clock, but it was a globe made out of different minerals and precious stones. It was very beautiful, right? So the next year I got him a gyroscope, so he can have these two things sitting on a shelf next to each other, and hopefully one day he figures out why one doesn't work with the other. Because he's a very intelligent person, right? And I know I've built things with him and engineered things, and we work really well together. Because I think outside of the box, and he knows all of the standard rules of everything. But I need him to stumble upon the idea that this gyroscope that was used for navigation in airplanes originally, a mechanical device, where you spin it, the scientific term that is used is it maintains its rigidity in space, right? So you can stand it upright, spinning on your finger, and it'll just stay there, right? You can put it at a 45-degree angle on your finger, spinning, and it'll stay there. It'll tend to stay wherever it's at, and that's what they mean by maintaining its rigidity in space. And so you can use a gyroscope to tell if your plane is tipping forward or if it's tipping back or side to side. You can orient where the plane is above the plane. But try to fly around a globe with a device that's maintaining its rigidity in space, and it'll spin all the way around. But no scientific experiment has ever shown that that's actually how the gyroscope is reacting when somebody's flying on a plane using it. And so it's a very subtle thing, that I presented to him, and I'm hoping over the course of maybe even years He will try to figure out why doesn't the gyroscope work on the globe.
Interesting. There's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of science. I saw that Josh in a comment said that he's fascinated with all things flat Earth, or all theories, flat Earth are included, but he thought that he thinks that society has already established and proven that the Earth is round, and well, I wouldn't. It's interesting that you say society has proven and established it, and not science.
Right? It was won by argument.
Yeah. But that's oh, that's a good one, Amber. That is a good one. What is the main reason you believe the Earth is flat?
Oh, my experience in construction. That's number one. If I'm going to build something, the Earth is flat. The ground is flat. I can use my level. I can use my plumb to make sure that the pillars that I put up are square to the ground and perpendicular, parallel with each other. Those concepts don't work on a globular model. You at some point, those tools break down and are no longer effective. And so water has been used as a level, right? It's theorized that to get the Great Pyramid and the other two to be as geometrically sound as they are, they carved out the square. Well, it's not actually a square for the Great Pyramid. It's a four-pointed star. The Great Pyramid actually has 8 sides. If you look into it, it's not. It doesn't have a square base like people think, but it is nearly perfectly level, even after a lot of natural disasters in the regions throughout the years. And things like that, and so they probably filled this 8-sided shape with water to determine that the complete opposite side was level, with its opposition. So you can't do that if it's bulging in the middle because you're on a ball. So here's an idea for all the people that really love the space. How do you have the vacuum of space next to the pressurized atmosphere of the Earth without it being sucked off? Right?
Right. How does the atmosphere of Earth and the vacuum, you are right. How does the atmosphere of Earth and the vacuum of space exist right next to each other, and they just, because they say like there's the Earth's atmosphere is encased in this, but how does it just stop
Encased
suddenly?
in what? Encased
well,
in
not
what?
encased. How the Earth's atmosphere is like, it's around the globe, right?
Yeah.
It's around the globe all over, and you can leave the Earth's atmosphere, but you're correct there. And what I'm trying to say is that the way science explains things to us is that how do those two things exist like right next to each other to the point where there's a definitive line? You know what I mean?
They should try to achieve equilibrium, right?
Right.
Entropy should set in, and the atmosphere should try to go to the empty space.
Right. Which would just mean, wouldn't that mean that the Earth's atmosphere would just continue to get larger and larger and larger, right? If that were the case,
but
if
it
it
would
was,
be less dense for us.
Right.
So that's what they need.
It's not
That's what they need gravity for.
Yes.
But
Because gravity pulls everything,
pulls it down.
even the tiniest drop of water.
Nope. So there's a study that I was very fascinated by. I was reading about waterfalls. I'd originally started on a study that was being done with asthmatic children spending a week at a waterfall, breathing in the energized mist for a particular period of time each day, and then having long-lasting effects after they went home, sometimes up to at least 6 months. So being asthmatic myself and having children that are asthmatic, I was very interested in it. But then I ended up getting into a scientific study on the droplets of water and the distance that they travel from the waterfall without falling to the ground. And essentially, they're being held up by an electromagnetic charge that's being created by the water falling and being mixed up with the air. And so it's like statically levitates these droplets that are within its electromagnetic reach. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to answer what the main reason is. I believe the Earth is, because I don't believe the Earth is flat. I don't
Okay.
know that I disbelieve it. I was going to
Yeah.
answer that for Amber. But the thing that was the most compelling to me is so science can have these really elaborate, complicated explanations of why it's round and why the atmosphere is how it is, what gravity, all that, these very, very complicated scientific, theories, reasons, experiments that they do, everything. But there are some very, very basic, very, very doable experiments for you or I or anybody on this flat earth to do that would make you question. That's what does it for me, is if I can question science, no, I'm not going to say science. If I can question what they, in quotation marks, right, what they are telling me by something I can physically do myself, that tells me that is something big. If I can question something and then not be able to explain why I question it, then I'm going to go with the smarter people here, right? But if I can look at, I'll keep going back to the curvature of the earth. If I can physically test that theory that the earth curves on my own with tools that I can get, maybe they're a little expensive tools, but I have access to those things. That makes me question. I don't have access to the millions of dollars worth of equipment that NASA says it's spending our money on. I don't have access to that. So that's the main reason for me, is that there are things that I can question. Huh?
You can't even get access to it.
No, you couldn't get access to the things that the scientists, astronauts, NASA, that they learn, that then they teach our scientists and they teach our teachers to teach us, right? It's very, very, we don't accept fifth-hand information in most cases. Why do we accept it in science?
Yep.
I mean, the little things I could do in science experiments I could do in school, I believed those experiments, I believed those experiments, because science is a real thing.
You watched it. It was
I watched it. That's right. It was right there. And Amber says, we know for a fact there are different sea levels and that the actual ground isn't level at all. Well, of course it's not level. The actual ground is not, but but what the ground lays on is level. So why do we use levels if the ground is not level? Why
Well,
do
you
we
can
use?
level the ground.
Yes, but I think underneath, there's of course there's hills and there's valleys and there's dips and there's
Yeah.
canyons and all that stuff, but the whole of the thing is not curved.
Well,
Maybe not flat, not curved.
solids, maintain their rigidity, and you can build mountains. Liquids seek their level.
Levels seek their level.
The
That is right.
science. That's the science. And you can do experiments to show, like, yeah, the river flows that way because it's all trying to reach an equilibrium, and until it gets to a place where it can stabilize and settle, it's going to go down.
But it doesn't always go down, does it?
Well, no, apparently it has to go up over the curve to get to the other side.
Yes.
Right? The Amazon has to go up over miles of curvature to spill out into the ocean on the other side of the bulge.
Yes.
So
that's another one.
That's try to recreate that. I did stumble upon a giant model that was made of the Louisiana Delta, and essentially it was like a giant warehouse-sized flat Earth model, because they didn't put any curvature on it. It was accurate. You're talking about engineers scaling down the numbers that were taken from survey crews that went, tons of money put into this. Are you telling me that they did that wrong because they sure as shit made it flat and the river just flowed downhill, kind of like they do? Are all of those people just horrible at their job because they can't make the river flow over the hill and down the other side?
Right. So tell me that, because this is one thing. Josh is like obviously saying that there's research and stuff that's been done about the layers of protection between the vacuum of space and the atmosphere of Earth and everything like that. But that's the other thing, is that, Josh, I don't believe, because we have not, because there's, books, I don't disbelieve, though. Do you know what I'm saying? Because until one can be proven definitively one way or the other for me, and I have questions like the river question, like look into like the Nile is the longest river in the world. 4,182 miles, I think it is. 4,100. I can't remember. I read it the other day. Over 4,000 miles. So if 4,000 miles, at some point you would be going uphill. That river would be going uphill according to the curvature. If it's always moving downstream, eventually it would be having to move uphill to get up the other side of the curvature. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain, because I see
silly. Yeah.
Because I see, like, if you're constantly moving on a ball, you're constantly going down, down, down. But when you get to the bottom of that ball, you're going to have to start moving up. So how does a river do that? Like, I don't know. That's just weird little things that I think about. And those are the little things that I think about that make me question
what we're being told. Yeah. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Like, okay.
No, there shouldn't be anything wrong with asking and not
or
and
saying,
not being told
I don't
you're
believe
stupid.
you.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, guy, I don't believe you. I think you're a snake oil salesman selling me bullshit,
Yeah.
and I should be allowed to think that without ridicule, um, because it's not like I'm running around preaching, And I know a lot. There are people that go around preaching that they know something. Um,
Right.
that's
I just like to talk about it. I just like to
yeah.
talk about the ideas and the fact that and I do appreciate you, Josh, like talking about those kind of things. And you're right. The level only the level when you're building a house only says your level with the ground directly beneath it,
Well,
including and or the floor of the
extend
house you
your
might be
level out.
leveling. What was
Extend your
that?
level out. Like I said, I gave the example of using the water as a level for the entire flooring of the Great Pyramid. So, I mean, okay,
Right, which is big.
what's the rate of curvature calculated so that they can get it right?
They didn't put the rate of curvature calculated
No,
in anything like that.
they
That's the thing. They
level
didn't put the curvature. They didn't calculate for the curvature when building the railroad across the United States, which you would think would have needed to be done.
right. I mean, you're trying to build a big curved track that takes your train over the hill smoothly onto
Right,
the opposing side.
right,
And so if you're building it, you'd have to, if you're building it beyond a mile, right? If you build it a mile, it's 4 inches higher in the middle. That's not what the schematics say.
right, right.
So, and especially if you don't even, have you ever looked at a schematic? Well, how can
No,
you say either way? Uh,
right,
the guy that built it, the guy that surveyed the land, didn't account for curvature.
right, right.
And
And then
you can say, well, you don't have to. It's minute, minuscule.
you should, Josh. You should watch some of the stuff that I linked, or that one that I linked. Some of the stuff by him, and then we'll link in the description here tomorrow, or I can send it to you on Facebook. The gentleman that you were talking about earlier that you got your information from with his videos. You said his name. I don't have a pen, so I'm going to ask you for it in Messenger. Okay. Um, uh, is that all right, Anki?
Yeah,
Anki?
that's fine.
Anki?
Thank
Anki?
you.
Anki. I'm so bad with new names. But anyway, so it's getting about that time that I have to go to bed because I got to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I am on your time zone. But I wanted to tell everybody, and I don't know if you'll be back next week for the Mandela effect, but we will be talking about that.
That'd be fun.
I know you think that we're just misremembering things. We're remembering things incorrectly.
Well,
But
I mean, the whole CERN connection, um, does get very peculiar. I'll give
it
you that.
does.
I did go down that rabbit hole. It's fun.
For me, it's a lot more fun because what year were you born?
86.
86. Okay, for me, I suppose, and for you, it's still there's a lot. But for me, there's some stuff that happened that I've remembered for my entire life. You know what I mean? Because I've been alive 15 years longer than you, but you still have some of it. But the people that are 23 or whatever, most of the stuff that was misremembered, they wouldn't have remembered in the first place. You know what I mean? So, or they
Yeah.
would have been really, really young for. Like, you still probably have some of it, but there's some stuff that for until I was, I guess, 2009. So that was I was 38 years old. Is that right? So for 38 years, I remembered something, or, not 38 years always, but for a long time, I remembered some things one way. And then all of a sudden, it's like some things that were really stuck in my memory. You know what I mean? Like stuck in there that are like I
Yeah.
still cannot wrap my mind around it. So it's like I just can't believe I can't believe it is all just a mass amount of remembering things incorrectly.
You think it's
Yeah.
like somebody tapping in, like piercing the veil?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it next week. I
All
do
right.
believe that it is something along those lines. And the same person that kind of taught me a lot of what I know, but I don't know a lot about flat Earth. But a lot of what I do know about flat Earth is the one that brought the Mandela effect to my attention too, because like he would just be sending me things going, do you remember this? And I'd be like, yeah. And he's like, send me something. He's like, this is, and I'm like, no, that's not correct. And I
Yeah.
do remember Nelson Mandela dying. So in the 90s. So it's like, that's fucking crazy. Anyway, so we're going to go. Do you have any last words? And is there any last words, any final words?
No, I'm grateful that we had the time to get together and talk about this. I think that everybody will at least walk away thinking about things.
Hopefully. And I'll be able to get a link out there just to watch a couple things that are just fascinating to me, at least. You just got to go in with an open mind. You got to go in with the what we'd like to say is a temporary suspension of disbelief for those that believe a specific way. If you go in with the temporary suspension of disbelief and try to just have your mind completely open to things, it really does. It's really interesting stuff. Is there another topic sometime you'd like to come back and talk about, Anki?
I mean, there are some. I think talking about ancient peoples and how what we've been taught about the entire progression of mankind may not be what is really happened.
Can we make another date?
Yeah, sure.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to get going, and I want to thank everybody and everybody that's watching on Foz's channel. Probably in the link we'll put the description. In the description we'll put a link to the other channel so you can subscribe there. And then yeah, come visit us next Wednesday, probably about the same time. We will be discussing the CERN and the Mandela effect and all that good stuff.
All
And
right.
and Josh, if you want to come on and join us, that'd be great. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Anki. What was that? Did she say bye, Ma? Bye, sweetie. You guys, sweet dreams. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.